It's deadline day and it's time for game week 2. Yes, I'm FPL D-Unit and this is your second edition of the Late Mail, your entertainment show before the deadline stream later today. This is where I cover all the hot topics. We have the card flips ready to go. We literally have everything that you need in preparation for game week 2. And yes, with that being said, you know what time it is. It's time to smash the like on the video, leave me a comment, share it with your friends on social media, get it out there to the masses. And if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. With that being said, let's go. Hot off the press, game week 2, here we are. This is the press conferences I've caught up on. I might have missed some, but I'm pretty confident I got all the hot bits off the top of all these teams. Sunderland, they want more wins. Lafries wants more wins. Apparently Silt, who went off last weekend, is also going to be available for this game. That's all we need to know there. Then we get on to Chelsea. Now, apparently there's been some deliberations about Wes Fofana not liking a few things. Well, they need defenders, and they talked about the internal solution. Well, Maresca did anyway, and you would think that he is a centre defender. Potentially, he could be an option. Maybe not this week, but he did say that he should be available for some minutes potentially this game week. He also confirmed that Tosin is available. I don't know if it's Tosin. I mean, Tosin would sound better than Tosin, but I'm pretty sure it's Tosin. He's available, so does he come straight back in for the other bloke that played last week? I don't think that 4 million defender is going to start again, unfortunately, if you're eyeing him up. He did talk about Jackson and Nkunku. They just won't be part of the squad. Will they be part of the squad post the deadline? We don't know, but yeah, you're just going to have to watch, keep your eye out for those transfers for those particular players. And that's not a surprise. I think Jackson could be an amazing option if he goes to another Premier League club. But while he's at Chelsea, he's a non-event. West Ham, ditto like last week, all available. The only thing that Potter mentioned here was that Alvarez hasn't been sold yet, but he's quite likely to be sold. There was some talk about PSR. Essentially, Potter just needs to get the team firing because Jared Bowen's dropped in price overnight, and I'm not happy about that. He needs to score tonight to get his price back up to 8 mil. That would be nice. Then we get on to Burnley and Scott Parker. Parker expects the trio of players that consist of Tsunami. Oh my God, I'm butchering that name. Humphreys and Broger. They should all be fit and they could all be available for the massive 6-pointer already against Sunderland in game week 2. Who would have thought that? Then we get on to Leeds and the captain, Ampadu. That's a nice little name. Ampadu went up Kathmandu. He's out injured. Probably, I'm not sure for how long, to be honest. He is going to be missing at least a couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure I read a medial ligament injury, but I could be wrong. I definitely read something about that. Then there was Okafor, who's come in, I think, from AC Milan, and he could be available for some minutes, but I wouldn't be expecting him to be starting based on what Daniel Fark was saying. Oh my God, I was almost going to say a different word there, but I didn't. Sorry, Leeds fans. Then we get on to Liverpool, and the big news here is that Frimpong is out until the international break. Well, after the international break. So he's not going to be available for game week 2 and game week 3. Connor Bradley has trained a few minutes, were Slot's words. Does that mean he's going to be available to start? I would suggest he's probably likely not to be available to start, and I don't know where you go. There was no transfer updates. He was pretty coy on Gui and Isaac. And Crystal Palace are pretty coy on Gui overnight as well. But Parish did come out and basically say that Eze's going to Arsenal. And he didn't play last night. But Gui, hopefully, I think the aim is for them to keep him for the second leg of the Conference League playoffs next midweek. And then I think that potentially he's also going to be sold before the end of the window, based on what I heard from the Crystal Palace manager. Then Brighton were the only other press conference I got anything of. Hinslewood is back in training, and Baliba has recovered from the knee problem from the weekend, and both hopefully will be available this weekend. That's all the news and the hot bits of points that you need to know, hot off the press for game week 2. So, Jeremy Frimpong, we just found out that he's no good, and obviously I'm recording this so that the video and the lighting is slightly off on me, and I do apologise for that, but I am in Perth, and I've been down here for a conference, and I'm 6 hours away from home, so the deadline stream in this is here. There won't be a Saturday watch-along this week, but there will be a Sunday watch-along. Man United versus Fulham. I'll be back at home for that, and I'll have the normal setup ready to go. So, Frimpong is out until after the international break. Do I need to transfer? Well, he's probably going to go down in price. I don't think he went down in price overnight, and I'm recording this very early on Friday. But look, let's be honest. I said last week I wouldn't have been starting with Liverpool defender until game week 4, and I stand by that decision. It was silly to go with any of them. I think for the first few weeks, just to see they look pretty susceptible in the Community Shield and in preseason to conceding goals, and that's exactly what transpired in game week 1. So I wouldn't be moving to another Liverpool defender. I'd be looking at probably, if you want to stay with the 6 million defender options, I personally think that the best option is probably Cucurella. If you don't want Cucurella, the best punt is probably Ait-Nouri because of the fact that we don't know whether Guardiola and when Guardiola is going to be fit, because we haven't heard from Pep yet prior to recording this video. Then obviously you've got the Arsenal defence, but I just think this week is potentially good for them with the Leeds fixture, but then the next 3 or 4 weeks, are they going to keep a clean sheet? I don't think you want to be jumping on Gabriel and Saliba at this time of the season. Not for me. I just don't think it's a long-term move. Will Guardiola be back soon? That is the big question. If he is, you would think that he's a really good option in defence, especially at that premium price point. And you do want someone that's going to be playing week in, week out, and it's going to be a good option. City also look like potentially, based on last week, and it was only against Wolves, so it was a bit hard to read, they could potentially be back this season. So you've got to keep your eye out for that as well. Do you hold Collins after the shambles that was Forest? Now, I'm in this quandary myself, and look, I'm going to be holding him because I've got more priorities than Collins this week. Now, they are playing Villa, who were pretty much toothless in attack last week, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they haven't bought players, maybe haven't sold players. I'm not sure what's going on there. They are a bit of a wait and see, but I think Collins should be okay. I think it'd be a panic sell moving him on, and look, I've got him in my team. I'm benching him at the moment this week, but yeah, that's a story for another day. Is Matty Cash a player at Villa? Now, apparently Forest might be interested in getting Matty Cash. Like, Forest have made a lot of signings this week. They've got back onto, they've seen Sunderland come in and just make a boatload of transfers, and they say, hold on, that's our MO. We're going to go back and start doing that again, and it's essentially what we've seen this week. So I don't think Matty Cash is an option. He doesn't inspire with much confidence, and I do expect Villa to concede away from home. That's just my personal opinion. And will Fulham ever keep a clean sheet? All those Anderson owners that I told them last week, it was a dumb play picking him up. They don't keep clean sheets. And again, Fulham conceded 1 goal last week. I can't see a world where Man United don't score at least 1 this week against Fulham. I am expecting Man United to batter them, if I'm being brutally honest. I think what we saw against Arsenal at home last week, I think Fulham are in for a world of pain this week. And for that reason, I wouldn't be going anywhere near them. So the next question that seems to be quite popular, and these 2 players have risen in price this week, and that is one Antoine Semenyo and whatever his name is, Reindeers. The D-Unit slate puller, he's all in there. We're ready to go with him. And look, let's be honest, I need him to continue going this week. So do you need to buy him? Are they essential? Let's have a look at it. So Semenyo, 15 points in game week 1 with Wolves at home next. Do you need him? Or do I need him? I would like him, but I'm more than willing to give Cole Palmer and Saka in my own teams another week. For that reason, I'm not going for him. But if I was to move both of them after this week and get Haaland in up top, Semenyo is a player I might get from game week 3. But for this week, no, I don't think he is. In terms of Reindeers, I've got a different take on Reindeers. Now, it's very rare you get a Man City player that's stupidly underpriced, and based on 1 week, and obviously the half that we saw in preseason, you would have to say that Reindeers, Rudolph, the red nose, is definitely way underpriced, like by a good couple of million underpriced. Like, he could easily be an 8 million midfielder if he continues in this vein. The thing to remember here, though, is there is Pep Roulette. So the good news is that when you've got a 5.5 million midfielder, you're not really paying much up on him. You don't care as much about Pep Roulette because it's not like you're benching a 9 million asset. So for that reason, he always feels like he is quite essential because of the fact that how often can you get into a Man City team with those kind of attacking returns on potential and get them for 5.5? In this case, it's now 5.6. Yeah, I think that if there was a player that I didn't have that I would want this week, it would probably be him, just based purely on the potential and the fact that it's such a cheap way into the Man City lineup, and especially their attack. Do I panic on blanking assets from game week 1 or do I points chase? Now, this is the key thing. Now, there are a lot of different points chasers, right? You could have chased the 17 points that Ballard got for Sunderland, or the 10 points that Kudus got, or the 2 points that Ndiaye got. All these things are all options, right? Do you chase the points that have already been had, or do you stick to faith with players that you think should return? Like, let's have a look at Bruno Fernandes, for example. 9 million. Didn't return last week. Obviously, it was one DC off being a DC superhero in game week 1. That would have given him 4 points. But is that really enough for 9 million? Those are the questions. I think that after one game, your best bet is literally just to play them again and hope that they come good. That's what I'm going to be doing at this moment in time. Will Villa improve this game week? And do I need to be worried about Rodgers and Watkins? Now, I've got Watkins in my own team, and I'm telling you, based on what I saw last week, I was not impressed. The only good news is that they're playing Brentford, and Brentford were poor. Like, they were poor. Like, let's be honest, they were very poor. So for that reason, hopefully they've got the rust out. They've got an extra week of fitness. Hopefully we get a different Villa this week at the G-Tech. There's no guarantee we will, but if I don't see anything from them this week, then I'd be very concerned. Now, Ollie Watkins has an amazing record against Brentford. 6 games played against him since he left, 7 goals in that time, plus I think 1 or 2 assists. So the money is on him returning in that game. So for that reason, I think Watkins, you shouldn't have too many worries. Rodgers, hopefully it's the same thing. And why didn't Damsgaard play? Now, a few people have asked why he didn't play. I also asked this question earlier in the week. It's because of the fact that his partner was giving birth to their child. So you would expect him to come back in, and I think Brentford will be a significantly better team with Damsgaard back in the team. I was going to say with Brentford back in the team. Well, you'd like to hope that Brentford is in Brentford, or else we'd be in a bit of trouble, particularly relying on their assets this week. So do you hold these assets? And I've just picked up 5 blokes, and 4 of them were in my team last week, and the 4 of them combined with the captaincy on them for 12 points. So I had Cole Palmer as captain, Bruno Fernandes, Ollie Watkins, and Jared Bowen. Now, Jared Bowen's actually dropped in price to 7.9 mil. Watkins and Palmer are on track probably to be dropping in price too, as is Wirtz. Now, I don't own Wirtz. I had Gakpo instead, so that didn't affect me as much. But again, I think one game week for these kind of options, these are proven, not in Wirtz's case, but in the other 4, they're all proven Premier League players that on average score over 160 points every season based on what we've seen in the Premier League. For that reason, I think you've just got to give them another week, maybe even another couple of weeks. The one that I would probably have the least amount of patience for is Cole Palmer. Now, the reason why is because he just went off the boil in the second half of last season. So I think for me, if he doesn't perform tonight against West Ham, it's see you later, Cole Palmer, and it'll be hello, Erling Haaland. So for that reason, I think you've just got to stick to faith here. I think you've got to stick to faith at least for game week 2, maybe even game week 3, and then assess after the international break, because there will be injuries during the international break. The transfer window closes then. For that reason, I think I'd just be holding on that little bit longer. So game week 2, and this is the moves that I've considered significantly myself. Now, Cole Palmer was not the option last week, and I just think he was very disappointing. He was very cold, and that is not what we want. We want a hot Cole Palmer, really, more than anything else. And then we had Erling Haaland. Did what he always does. He starts like an absolute freight train out of the gates with 2 goals against the Wolves team that looked like they really would have conceded a third if he'd actually stayed on for the rest of the team. Rest of the game. When you look at the fixtures, this week is, on theory, the best week for Cole Palmer. I know it's an away game and it's against West Ham, but they've had an extra week in the preseason and getting up to match speed, hopefully. So you would expect Chelsea to hopefully be a bit better. Then it's Fulham at home, Brentford away. Now, the first 4 are actually pretty good for Chelsea. Now, from 5, 6, and 7, I think I'd be more than happy to jump off Cole Palmer around then. If we look at Erling Haaland, though, if we don't go with the Tottenham fixture this week, it's then Brighton away, who I think should be okay. He's got a fairly good record against Man United, but then it's Arsenal away. But it's game week 6 where I really want Haaland. So, this is one of them ones I'm like, oh, do I do the -4 now and just back in Haaland just keeps scoring goals for fun, which inevitably could very well happen? Or do I sit there and just go, okay, maybe I just give Cole Palmer another shot? Like, this is the quandary I'm in. This could be a massive swing. Like, I could sit there and Haaland miraculously might actually blank against Tottenham. We can't rule that out. And Palmer might score a couple of goals. All of a sudden, if I moved him out for a -4, I just look like an absolute clown. So I think for that reason, that's why I'm not going to do it this week. And that's my personal opinion. I think if you want to do it, by all means, go ahead and do it. But for me, I'd be kicking myself if I got it wrong. And yeah, on any other week. But I think that's just where I'm at. Especially after last week's horror show, I've got to give him another chance for me. So this is the team as things currently stand. And look, I don't know about the benching things. Obviously, I've got Jared Bowen, who's gone down in price there, and Reindeers, who's gone up. So I'm exactly the same team value as last week, which is 99.5 million with 0.5 in the bank. The biggest quandary I've got now, I actually have considered just pressing the bench boost button this week, because when I look at my bench, it's pretty good. Like, I don't think Dubravka is going to get a better fixture in the next 8 weeks, really, with Sunderland at home. Like, I don't think he's actually going to get a better fixture. And if he's going to be my second goalkeeper, maybe this is a reason to play it. I can't make up my mind who to bench in the forward 8 either. So at the moment, I've just benched Gakpo because he, in theory, has the hardest fixture. But that doesn't feel good, considering that he was only one of 2 players that actually returned last week. So he's actually got form on his side, and I'm playing 6 other players that were absolute no good for my team last week. So again, I don't know if I've got that right. Then I've got Collins. I've literally benched him, and I feel like he could be, I feel like I'm going to regret this. Like, I'm sitting there now. He's the 2 defenders of home fixtures are the ones sitting on my bench, and the other 3 have all got away fixtures. Am I just getting this wrong? Is there going to be like a massive haul this week on my bench? Maybe I should just be playing the bench boost this week and just get it over and done with. Surely it can't go that bad. I mean, imagine if they all got like 10 pointers on the bench. I could have got like 30 points this week. It would be insane. Like, I am concerned about how strong the bench is looking this week compared to the starting lineup. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot, or if that's actually a play that I could do this week and just get over and done with. Then I can start stripping money out of some of the teams to make my decisions week to week a little bit easier. I'm just intrigued to know what people think. Is this a good bench boost team based on the fact we all know that these guys are playing? So we don't have to worry about that. All pretty good for minutes, and hopefully all really good for returns. Lots of things to consider, that's for sure. And it's definitely not something I've ruled completely out this week. So one of my hot takes for game week 2. I think it's worth taking a hit this weekend if you really want to play like Haaland. If you want to do it, I reckon. I think that a lot of people might regret, I might even regret not taking a -4 to bring him in this week. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to take a hit to bring in one of them massive premium assets. I wouldn't be doing it for like someone that wasn't a premium though. So for that reason, if you're not going for like a Haaland, I don't think taking a -4 is a good idea this week. Some players that hold in game week 1 are definitely cases of points chasing. For example, Kudus and Ballard are definitely examples of points chasing. There's no way they're going to get those points this week. I'll sit there and I don't know what I'll do, but I'm telling you, it's not going to happen this week. There are other cases as well where Semenyo, really, is he going to get another 15-pointer against Wolves? Probably not. I think Valentin is more suited to the Wolves game than Semenyo, and Semenyo is more suited to the Liverpool game than what Valentin was, or even Ilson was. That's just my personal opinion. Options that failed last week are worth at least one more week, especially at a shot at redemption. Now, the only players that are not worth a shot at redemption are the likes of Ndiaye, who I said last week should have been shown the graveyard and left there to rot because he was no good. He's not going to be any good this week. He's not going to be good in any given week. He's going to fluke when he gets a return. It's going to be so unexpected. Watch him return now. And also Anderson from Fulham. Like, no good. Like, absolutely no good. Then the other Anderson. He remains a dud pick. I think, because, or does he become a dud pick? Because of the fact that Douglas Luiz has signed for Forest. Now, Douglas Luiz plays in the same position as Anderson at Forest. So they're either going to be sharing the minutes or one of them's not going to be starting. So, look, I don't know what that means, but I would be very concerned if I was an Anderson owner that is going to become a problem in my team, specifically with Douglas Luiz signing for Forest. I would expect him to be starting because I think Douglas Luiz is probably a better player than Anderson, if I'm being brutally honest. So that is definitely something to watch. Then the last thing is you need to be aware of assets moving clubs. So Eze looks like he's about to leave Crystal Palace. So if you have Eze this week, he's probably not playing this weekend. I would dare say 100% he's not going to be playing this weekend. I'll be absolutely shocked if he is. He's either going to be having his medical and getting presented on the pitch at Arsenal, or he's just going to be kept out of the Crystal Palace game because the move is imminent. So for that reason, you have to be aware, like, that's going to be a problem in people's teams that own Eze. Now, is he going to be a good option if he goes to Arsenal instead of at Palace? I'd say probably not. He's going to get way less minutes, you would think. He's not going to be on as many set pieces, if any at all. So he's really going to be relying on his assists and goals when he's on the field. So for that reason, I think Eze just becomes a non-option, especially if he goes to Arsenal. If he'd gone to Spurs, for example, on the other hand, he would have been an amazing option because he probably would have had all of the above. And then, yeah, obviously all the other moves that you do need to be aware of: creating chaos, causing issues for our teams, potentially leading to less minutes and benching issues and everything else in between. You do have to be aware of that because, yeah, it's happening. The transfer deadline is fast approaching and you've got to be prepared for it. And on to the favourite part of the show, and this is the Game Week 2 card call. So people have actually sent me these and I'm going to do them. The card is at the ready. Remember, the player on the left is always the logo. The player on the right is always the other side. Last week, just to reflect on how well the card did, Game Week 1, it got 6 correct calls and it called 2 draws. Essentially, the other 2 were both players scored the same amount of points. So it didn't get them right, didn't get them wrong. It was a draw. It got 0 wrong last week. Can it keep up its good work? We are about to find out. So the first call is Haaland versus Watkins. And it's gone with Watkins over Haaland. Well, that's good because I've got Watkins and I don't have Haaland. Next up, Palmer versus Saka. And it's gone with Saka. That's good because I've got Saka as captain. His card's off to a flyer. All right, Van de Ven versus Esteve. It's gone with Esteve. Look at that. Spurs are obviously going to concede a few goals against City on the weekend. Semenyo versus Palmer. It's gone with Palmer. That's interesting. All right, Watkins captain versus Semenyo captain. Semenyo captain. It's gone the right-hand side every single time here. Surely we're going to go one on the left here soon. João Pedro versus Chris Wood. João Pedro, there you go. Gordon versus Wirtz. This one's for FPL Nightmare. This is the cards call on Gordon versus Wirtz, buddy. And it's gone with Wirtz. And then Sells versus Dubravka in goal. It's gone with Sells in goal. There you go. Those are the cards calls for Game Week 2. Can it get it correct again? It's going to be interesting to find out. I am excited to know how it's going to go again this week. So that's the end of the second edition of the Late Mail. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it's a bit of light entertainment and a bit of fun fact information and my thoughts on just other opinions. And obviously we have the GOAT card calls as usual. The cards team, FYI, has taken a -4 this week in actually bringing in one Erling Haaland and for Ollie Watkins, and it's dropped Phil Foden down to Anderson because it had 2 million in the bank for its deadline team. So it's going with a -4. That's the cards team. I'll see you on the deadline stream. I'll be on there 2 hours before the deadline, so make sure you join me later today for that. And before you go, smash a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, share it on your social medias and stuff for Cartel. The D-Unit's here, baby. Let's go.